Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something way beyond your standard chatbot. We're looking at a whole new way of building with AI, using entire teams of specialized agents that work together to solve some really tough problems.
So here's what we've got on tap. First, we'll talk about why just using simple prompts isn't cutting it anymore. Then we'll get into the rise of what people are calling AI agents. This is a real game changer. After that, we'll meet CrewAI, which is this awesome framework for managing these agents. We'll even walk through a super practical example, planning a ski trip. And to wrap it all up, we'll peek into what this agentic future really looks like.
All right, let's jump right in. We're going to start with a problem that, anyone who's tried to build something with LLMs has probably hit, and hit pretty fast. So, have you ever tried to build a real app with AI, just using prompts? If you have, you've definitely hit this wall. You can kind of get something to work, right? But it feels fragile, like it could break at any moment. And forget about scaling it up. And here's the heart of the problem. Look, simple prompts, they're great for little one-off tasks. But for a real, complex application, you need something you can grow, something you can fix without tearing it all down. You need a modular design. Trying to cram everything into one monster prompt is like trying to build a skyscraper with duct tape. It just becomes a total mess that's a nightmare to debug. So the big question is, how do we get past this? Well, the industry is already moving on to the next big thing, and it's called agentic AI. I mean, the progress here has been just breakneck, right? In 2022, we were all blown away by just basic question and answer chatbots. Then, boom, early 2023, we get RAG systems that could pull in external data. And now, the next big leap is the LLM agent. This is an AI that doesn't just talk, it does things. So what is an agent really? The best way to think about it is it's not a chatbot. It's more like an autonomous employee. It uses the LLM as its brain to think and reason. It can get stuck in a loop, figuring things out. It can use tools, like literally browse the web. It remembers what it did before, and it can even check its own work to make sure it's on the right track. Okay, so one smart agent is cool. But what if you need a whole team of them working together? How do you get them to coordinate without stepping on each other's toes? Well, that's exactly where a framework like CrewAI comes into the picture. It's basically the project manager for your AI crew. So CrewAI is this open source tool, and its whole job is to make it easy to manage a team of AI agents. It makes collaboration simple, it gives you that scalable modular setup we were just talking about, and it deals with all the messy, complicated stuff, like how the agents talk and work together under the hood. And really, this is the whole point, right? It lets you focus on the actual problem you're trying to solve, not on building all the plumbing from scratch. You get to define what you want done, and CrewAI takes care of how it gets done. No more reinventing the wheel. Okay, so how do you actually build one of these crews? It sounds complicated, but CrewAI breaks it down into 3 really simple core ideas. It's actually pretty elegant. First up, you've got the agent. This is your individual worker. You give it a job title, that's its role. You tell it what it needs to achieve, that's its goal. And then you give it a backstory. And this backstory is super important. It's not just for fun. It gives the AI all the context it needs to really act like an expert in that specific area. So for our trip planner example, you could create an agent like this. Role, best ski destination finder. Goal, pinpoint the best ski spots. And backstory, you are a world-class travel agent who specializes in winter getaways. See? Now it has a clear identity and a mission. The second concept is the task. This is the actual job you need done. And what's really cool here is that the task is a totally separate thing from the agent. You give it a clear description of what needs to happen, and, this is key, you tell it exactly what the final output should look like. So, following our example, we create a task. Find the best ski spot for a group of friends with different needs. Then we just hand that task over to our location expert agent. And that separation, that modularity is so powerful. It means you can easily swap agents or give your expert a totally different task later on without having to tear your code apart. And the last piece of the puzzle is the crew itself. The crew is where you bring it all together, your team of agents and all the tasks they need to do. You assemble the crew, give it the green light, and it manages the whole workflow from there, making sure everyone collaborates to get the job done. Okay, so that's the theory. It sounds pretty neat, right? But let's see how it works in the real world. We're going to dive into a case study where someone actually used CrewAI to solve a problem that sounds simple but is actually a huge headache: planning a ski trip for a group of friends. So here's the setup. You've got friends in Hamburg, Madrid, Italy, all over the place. And you're trying to find one ski resort that works for everyone. It's got to be affordable, it's got to be reachable, and it needs to have a good rental shop close by. I mean, just thinking about planning that manually gives me a headache. That is a classic optimization nightmare. So what did he do? He built a crew. He had a location finder agent, a hotel expert agent, and a ski shop researcher agent. Each one had a very specific job. But the real genius was adding a manager agent. This agent's only job was to be the boss, to watch over the others, and most importantly, make sure the final plan didn't go over budget. And this manager operates in what's called a hierarchical process. This isn't just a simple assembly line where one agent hands off to the next. No, the manager is in charge. It can look at what the other agents came up with and say, nope, this is too expensive. Go back and find a cheaper hotel. It creates this really powerful feedback loop. So, did it work? You bet it did. The quote says it all. I did go to Chamonix this year because of this application. How cool is that? This wasn't just a toy project. The AI crew planned a real successful trip. It solved a complex logistics problem so well that real people spent real money based on its recommendation. Okay, so this is obviously super powerful, but what does it all mean for the future of how we build AI apps? Let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture, the good and the not so easy parts of this whole agentic approach. Look, it's not all magic. On the one hand, frameworks like CrewAI are fantastic. They give you that modular, scalable power we've been talking about. But on the other hand, there are trade-offs, right? There is a definite learning curve to get started, and because they do so much for you under the hood, it can sometimes feel a bit like a black box. You kind of have to trust that it's all working correctly, which can be tricky. But here's the bottom line. This shift from just writing simple prompts to becoming the conductor of an entire orchestra of AI agents, it's a massive leap forward. It fundamentally changes how we can think about building software. We're moving away from making simple tools and starting to build genuine, complex problem-solving systems. So that really just leaves one big question for you to think about. What complex problem could your AI crew solve?